Hey, aloha everybody. Hi everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another week of live Q&A here at Trauma Recovery University. This channel is a channel dedicated to adults who are living with the after effects of childhood trauma, complex trauma, abuse, any type of abuse during your developmental years, physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional, psychological abuse, sexual abuse. If that's you, you're in the right place. We come here as a community every single week and we hang out together and we spend time with one another and we heal, and I answer your questions or do the very best I can to answer your questions. So if that's you, welcome. This week's topic is a threefold topic, and the reason that we're lumping it all in together there's actually several reasons we're doing that. I'm preparing to narrow down the topics that I record for you guys so that I can record them more often. I've received emails and messages and DMs and voicemails and so much correspondence from all of you indicating that daily resources or daily vlogs or daily videos, daily support in shorter increments is more important to you and would help you more, and it would be more beneficial for you than the once a week long Q&A videos. It's not to say that these are going to go away, because this is sort of the highlight of my week. I love being here with you guys every single week, and I love the fact that we all join together as a community of people recovering from trauma. Trauma recovery is a real thing, and sometimes it can feel like it's a full-time job. So welcome if you're on a replay, or if you are here live. If you're here live, if you made it here live for the conversation, and you're either on Twitter or over in the YouTube chat box, would you give yourselves and give this video a thumbs up? Any little bit that you can do to help raise awareness is huge for other survivors who are just starting their recovery journey. So oftentimes the messages you guys give me and send me are, how can we support you, Athena? You support us every week. And the best way you can do that is by subscribing to my YouTube channel and by giving the videos a thumbs up and by commenting below in the comment section of the videos. That is the very best way you can support the work I do with survivors. So thanks for asking, and thanks for being the most important part of this community. And really quick, I have some notes here that I just don't want to forget to mention. So these videos are not a therapeutic service, and they're not a diagnosis of any kind. If you want or you need therapy, you need to seek a qualified licensed professional. These videos are never a substitute for healthcare. So I simply openly discuss what I have incurred in my 43 years on this planet, and the research that I personally conducted, I share with you guys here verbally on videos and through answering your questions during the live chat. So I've been doing research on these topics for about 17 years or so in one way or another, whether it was through the local library or in more recent years, looking online, of course. So trigger warning, this chat is going to be triggering for anyone who has experienced any type of trauma, specifically the trauma of abuse. So please take excellent care of yourselves and step away from the chat if you are triggered. This chat is not a place for you to receive crisis support. We are not here to support you if you're in crisis. We have plenty of resources that are being tweeted out and shared over in the YouTube chat box right now for you to receive support. The Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network at rainn.org, or the crisis text line. You can simply text the word help to 741-741, and there are people staffed there all the time to help people who are in crisis, specifically dealing with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. If you're in crisis and you're struggling mentally and emotionally, they're there to support you. So what else did I want to make sure that I told you guys? Very special thank you. Very special thank you to all of you guys who make this possible, Matt and Dawn, who are moderating and making sure that I receive your questions. Please post your questions in the YouTube chat box or over on Twitter using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. If you want to maybe put an asterisk in the letter Q, or I guess I should ask Matt and Dawn how they would prefer to receive your question so that they know that it's a question, maybe by tagging them or something, so that I can answer your questions. And I'll be taking questions for the next 45 minutes. So anytime between now and the next 45 minutes, please send your questions in and I will give you an answer to the best of my ability. If tonight's topic isn't helpful for you, just skip it. It's all good. The topics are not going to be helpful for everyone, and not every topic is for every person. Every person is individual, and everybody's healing journey is unique. And to think that every single topic is for you, that's not the case. I can't help every single one of you, but I can help some of you some of the time, and all of you some of the time, but I can't help all of you all of the time. So I'm going to do my very best to remain creating resources and stay on topic to the topics that you guys have told me are important to you. So a very special thank you, like I said, to Matt and Dawn, and also to Maggie and Jody and Kalisha, and to Harriet, of course, and to Heather up in Canada, and to Jack and Poppy, and all of you guys who are retweeting, Willow, Paul, all of you guys, Stu up at the Gatehouse. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. So every single person that shows up here deserves unconditional love and acceptance, and they're here to receive support and to give support. So really super quick, who this chat is not for. If you're here to receive support and you're a survivor or a supporter of a survivor, and you're here to give support, receive support, give support, and you are agreeing to step away if you're triggered, then this is for you. If you are a bully, a cyberbully, a troll who has nothing better to do with your time than to harass my community members who are showing up here so that they can heal from years of trauma, you're not welcome here. And if you're here and you're a cyberbully and you have nothing better to do with your time than to pick on me and tell me how annoying my voice is or how annoying my personality is, just skip it. Go to another YouTube channel, find somebody that you like and that doesn't annoy you, because YouTube is voluntary and you can find someone out there that you love. So that's who this is for and who this isn't for. And I'm just grateful that you guys are here. You're not here by accident, and I really believe that you're here for a purpose, and I want you to know that you belong here. So many of you message me week in and week out letting me know that you've never felt like you belong anywhere in your whole life. I received a message from a woman a while back, and I think she's in her 70s, and it's not the first woman in her 70s to message me. I get these messages more often than you would think, somebody that's in their 70s, but she's never felt like she's fit in anywhere, and she feels like she fits in with us. So that's a testament to you guys, because you guys are the ones that make this place special. So that's all the housekeeping items I have. Thank you for being here. Again, if you showed up live, give this video a thumbs up, give yourself a thumbs up, and subscribe to this channel if it's helpful to you. And tonight's topic of narcissistic parents, psychological abuse, and CPTSD. It's a loaded topic, you guys. What questions do you have for me? What experience do you have with narcissistic parents? What experience do you have in healing from psychological abuse? What helpful tips and information and advice do you have for our community on the topics of narcissistic parents and psychological abuse and CPTSD? I would love to hear from you. I would love to answer your questions and to share the advice, helpful advice that you have for others in our community. This isn't a place to rant or complain or trigger others. So this is a helpful environment for people who are really desiring to heal and want to be in community with other people. So let's keep it on the level, and I want to open it up to you guys and just let you know that I appreciate you. I, of course, have lived experience with narcissistic parents, with psychological abuse, and with healing from CPTSD. I will tell you this: I've had a really hard time grieving. Not only grieving my childhood and the innocence that was stolen from me, but grieving the childhood and the innocence and all of the different levels of loss that there are when you think about an entire childhood. On occasion, I get a chance to be around other people's kids that are very young, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9. And some of the experiences that they get to have are, it's fascinating to me. It can be triggering if I'm not practicing good self-care, but it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me to see the toys that they have and the time that they get to spend with their parents and the interaction with the parents and the children and the conversations that are had and the level of care and love and guidance and support. It's fascinating to me. I'm beyond fascinated. And to the point where I was in San Antonio with my son and my daughter-in-law, and we were like doing all of these things with my daughter-in-law's family, and they were talking a lot about like their childhoods and like, oh, remember when we were kids and we used to do this? And I found myself sort of having like it was almost like dissonance. It was just this like, I was feeling this way and I was feeling this way. I was like, do I have memories like that? I don't think I have memories like that. Are those memories that I would have? I don't have any memories that are like that. Are those my memories? Are they their memories? Like I was trying to figure out and pull it all apart and go, I think what I'm experiencing here is like the dichotomy and just the drastic difference between the lives of people that I'm around and the childhoods that they had and then the childhood that I have. And I know that we've talked about this on this channel before, about just how different it is when you grow up in an isolated or abusive environment, and then when you get older and you're in your 30s or your 40s and you realize, wait a second here, like I missed out on chunks of life, like decades. Things that people talk about that they experienced, I have no frame of reference at all. And that's part of the narcissistic abuse if you were born into a narcissistically abusive family. And it's also part of the psychological abuse because remember, we've talked on this channel about gaslighting and about how we're groomed, and there's some isolation involved in there, and there's some history revision going on. They don't want you to be able to trust your own judgment and your own gut feelings about things. And so it can be very confusing, very triggering. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, you guys. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to go over and I'm going to peek and see all the different questions that are being asked and sent in. And again, just thanks for being here and thanks for being supportive to one another. You guys really are the most important part of this community. Let me get a drink of water and then I'm going to read some of your questions, okay? Okay, so let's see here. Okay. Hunter says, can abusers create such a cult of personality that flying monkeys will inflict psychological abuse on others even if the abuser is dead already, or is that an aberration? So That is such an excellent question, Hunter. And I want to pull it apart a little bit, and just for anyone who's here for the first time and they're new to their healing journey, I want to explain what this is. So abusers, specifically narcissistic abusers, flying monkeys are what is, it's a terminology used in the mental health field. And what flying monkeys are is they are basically pawns. If someone is a narcissist and they're toxically abusive, manipulative, exploitative, they don't have empathy, and they're looking to mess with you, if they can't mess with you personally, they're going to enlist some people in the slyest way possible, and sometimes they're not even very sly about it. And it's just sad, honestly. So what flying monkeys are is they are people that are used by the main abuser to reach you, especially if you've gone no contact or low contact with your abuser. That's when the flying monkeys come out to play. So what I mean by that is, let's say, in reference to Hunter's question. So I believe in Hunter's question, the abuser's already dead. Let me make sure. Okay. Can abusers create such a cult of personality that flying monkeys will inflict psychological abuse on others, even if the abuser is dead already? Yeah. So when the abuser dies, the abuser, let's say, is the narcissist, or they're the psychopath, or they're the person that inflicted the abuse on you. Now, they die, and when they die, they're flying monkeys, they're pawns. They open their mouth, and the dead abuser's voice just comes out. Their words come out. And the answer to your question, Hunter, is yes. They can create such a cult of personality that the flying monkeys will inflict psychological abuse on everyone, especially you, if you're the scapegoat, after the abuser is dead. So it's almost like they need to carry on the legacy. And if you're the scapegoat and you're watching this video, first of all, I'm sorry. I know what that feels like. And it's horrific. It's lonely. It's painful. And there's such a betrayal. And the flying monkeys that go along with, the flying monkeys that are inflicting pain on you now, even though your abuser's already dead, or even if your abuser's still alive, but just for Hunter, like since the abuser's dead, they don't even know that they're pawns. They might just not be aware because they've just been sort of tricked or manipulated or snowballed, or they've been shown a mask by the abuser. They're lured in, and ever so slightly, they're told little things about you. And they are digs that the abuser knows that the flying monkey would likely not be okay with about you, the scapegoat. And so the abuser plants little seeds and says little things as though they are true. And when the abuser's not around to torment you, but the flying monkey is in touch with you, they'll open their mouth and they'll make sure that the message of the abuser lands on its intended target, being you, the scapegoat. So this is the case when the abuser is still alive, and it is the case when the abuser is already dead. So it's not false, Hunter. This definitely happens on a regular basis, and almost more so if the abuser's dead, because it's almost like the flying monkey feels like it's their duty to carry on this legacy. If you're the scapegoat, it's their duty to continue to torment you and do what they saw the abuser do to you, because it's what they believe is right. It doesn't make any sense. All of this, if we were to pull it apart and look at it logically, it makes no sense. But remember one of the rules when we talk about narcissists is, as we choose to use logic, we are the ones who suffer. Because you can't use logic and apply logic when you're talking about a narcissist. Logic doesn't work. It just doesn't. They don't live by the same rules of logic that the rest of the world lives by. They make up their own rules. They revise history. They smear everything into a big puddle of undiscernible crap. And then they paint things with broad strokes, or they tell outright lies, and then they throw narcissistic rage tantrums to the point where it makes no sense to one of the flying monkeys. Like, if this thing isn't true about the scapegoat, then why would this person, the abuser, be so adamant about it? It must be true. They're carrying on in such a way and saying such horrible things about you, the scapegoat, that it just must be true, or else this person, the abuser, wouldn't be going on and on and on about it. So therefore, the flying monkey, using logic, it must be true because they wouldn't be going on and on and on about it. So I will carry on their legacy, and I will make sure that the truth is known by many. And the flying monkeys use logic because they think it's the logical thing to do, because it is. But unfortunately, they don't know that the rules have been changed by the narcissist. The narcissist changes the rules whenever they want. And they launch smear campaigns. And when they launch a smear campaign, whether it's slightly or boldly, the flying monkeys are the ones that the abuser makes sure that hear the smear campaign or are made aware of the smear campaign, so that they can be mouthpieces for the abuser and go out and continue to smear and inflict pain on you, the scapegoat. So I hope that was validating, Hunter, and helpful in some way. And I'm sorry that you're even going through that, because I know what that feels like, and man, does it suck. I don't know if I shared this with you guys. In fact, I know I did. I just can't remember what video it was that I shared it with you on. But I was headed to, I was launching my second book. And I was on kind of like a speaking tour of sorts, and I was speaking, and I was driving from Florida to Alabama to Texas, and I was speaking in all these different churches, and just like driving a rental car from hotel to hotel to hotel. And I was on my way to this like book launch / speaking engagement tour thing. Like I'm some important person or something. Like it was unreal how it all just fell into place. It was just such a blessing. 'Cause I'm not that important, but it sounds like it when I say it out loud. But I was on my way to that shindig and all of that. And I stopped in, I connected through LA and got to see one of my family members who's still in touch with my main abuser. And their mouth opened and out came their words, the abuser's words. So this person didn't even know that they were a flying monkey. And I thought they were a safe person. I didn't know that they had been lured in or enlisted as a pawn or a flying monkey, but they were. And so ever since then, sadly, that person, that family member has sort of been moved out a rung. They're not like in my safe circle anymore because they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to the ploys of the narcissist. And ain't nobody got no time for that. I stopped in, connected through LA for 1 hour, went out to eat, and got on my plane to connect through Chicago to go over to Florida. And I was depleted. I was questioning the calling on my life. What am I doing? Am I hurting more people than I'm helping? And is this even something I'm supposed to be doing? Like, maybe I shouldn't even be helping abuse survivors. Like, maybe I'm just embarrassing my family. And like, you guys, like, that's not even me, but those were the words that were planted by the person I thought was a safe person because they were a flying monkey of my abuser, my main abuser. I've had many. But yeah, so that was really painful and really hard. And they did it in such a, I knew the way they did it wasn't them because they've never said those words to me before, the flying monkey. I knew the words that came out of their mouth were directly from the mouth of my abuser because they are words that have been used many times throughout my entire life, from my childhood all the way through adulthood. The way the sentence was phrased was like so classic. And I was just like, oh. It was like somebody punched me in the solar plexus. Like, hacked me in the neck or something. I was like, you know, like just shocked. So sorry you're going through that, Hunter, but you're not alone. I totally still go through this type of thing, and it doesn't get easy, but I learned to bear the weight of the pain skillfully. And that, my friend and my recovery buddy, high fives, that is resilience, and you are resilient. So super stoked that you asked that question. And I'm going to move on to the next question. August says, do all that went through sexual abuse undergo psychological abuse as well? Ooh, that is such a good question. Thank you, August. I wanted to address this tonight and I didn't make a note of it. So August, you totally saved me. Okay, so the answer to August's question, does everyone who goes through sexual abuse incur psychological abuse as well? The answer 90+ % of the time is yes. This is the exception. The exception is if it's like a sneak attack, like a one-time occurrence, or someone jumps out of the dark and they sexually assault you, or your family is traveling and they're going to stay the weekend at someone's house. During the time that your parents are staying the weekend at someone's house while you're a child, and they put you in the kids' room to sleep with the kids, and the parents are sleeping on the couch because you guys are traveling and you're just like going through town and you're headed on your way to go to vacation or something like that. Like, I'm just telling you what's happened to one of my clients because I didn't go on vacations, but I know that this is a way that it doesn't involve psychological abuse. So 90+% of the time, yes, sexual abuse survivors have also endured psychological abuse. But the other 9 or 10% of the time out there, if you were a child and you're sleeping in the room with the kids of your friend's parents and they're sleeping in a whole nother room and one of the children sexually abuses you in the middle of the night and you're frozen and you don't know what to do, and you move on with your life thinking that everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're 30, or boom, you're 25, or boom, you're 40, and you're having all these memories and you're struggling with mental illness. You might not have endured psychological abuse because that was a one-time occurrence, or it was something that came out of nowhere, literally in the dark, or someone jumps, like you're headed to your car after class one night near your college campus and someone sexually assaults you, and they rape you, or more than one person rapes you, and there's no speaking going on, you're drugged or what have you. You know, all these situations make up the other 10%. So, but for the most part, 90% of the time, there's grooming that goes on with sexual abuse. There is a need that's met, whether it's a emotional need, a physical need, a need that you have, whether it's for school clothes or food or approval or attention or love or kindness, something, a need that you have. And the abuser grooms you and they meet that need and they lure you. And then once they lure you and they see that they've got you, then they tell you that you're not allowed to tell, or else you won't get those things anymore. Is that what you want? You want me to take your food away? Aren't you hungry? That's psychological abuse. And that's how a lot of childhood sexual abuse goes down. It's through grooming, and grooming is psychological abuse. So 9 times out of 10, yes, sexual abuse survivors also endure psychological abuse. But that 1 time out of 10, when someone jumps out of the bushes and they sexually assault you, or you're sleeping in the room with the kids and then one of the kids sexually abuses you, and then you just sort of try to forget about it and be perfect, or, you know, overperform, become invisible, self-soothe through food or drugs or alcohol or busyness or self-harm, and then you realize, wait a second, I've endured sexual abuse, and that's the root of all of these symptoms, like self-harming and binging and purging and or, you know, attention seeking, thrill seeking, perfectionism. All of those things are just symptoms of the sexual trauma, which may not have included psychological abuse because it was something that just happened and you weren't lured and groomed. I hope that was helpful, August, but I'm so glad you asked that question because I wanted to cover that topic tonight and like really pull that apart. So your question really helped. So thank you. Gary says, hi, Gary. Gary says, I have a question about the case of ritual abuse and mind control. How does ritual abuse relate to this topic? Well, that's a great question, Gary. And you guys, I want you all to welcome Gary if you could. He's sort of newer to our channel, and he's also a part of our Facebook community now, and he's healing in safe community with a whole bunch of our other survivors. And ritual abuse, in its very nature, is psychological in nature. The very nature of ritual abuse is psychological, and that is mind control. Like, you're literally controlling someone's mind. You are oftentimes, at least with the ritual abuse survivors that I have had one-on-one encounters with and very vulnerable discussions with, and the research that I've done, the way ritual abuse happens isn't overnight. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Someone that's a cult type person or a very narcissistic, sociopathic, Machiavellian type person doesn't gain control over people's minds in a heartbeat. They do it over time. And the way they do it over time is by asking questions and then praising people who answer the questions properly, or by noticing that people have needs, meeting those needs. If that need is for leadership or for money or for clothing or for shelter or for food, they meet the needs. And in order to keep them under the control of this person who's sociopathic, Machiavellian, sadistic, narcissistic in nature, dark triad, dark tetrad personality, which is usually what a cult leader person is. If they're only narcissistic, okay, you lucked out. But typically cult leaders, if you look at the data says that cult leaders are often narcissistic and psychopathic in nature, and often sadistic, which brings in the ritual abuse aspect of it, which involves sacrificing of animals and humans. So, but they do it through mind control. They do it through triggers. They do it through like certain timings. On such and such a date, make sure that you do these things at this time, and then you're rewarded for doing these things at this time. So how does it tie into this particular topic? This is how it ties into this particular topic, Gary. Let me try to put it all together because we have a three-pronged topic tonight, and so there's a lot of moving parts. But if I am a child and I was born into a family of parents who are narcissistic, and a cult type person or a larger narcissistic personality type person, in order for my narcissistic parent to feel important as they should, and they're receiving the praise and the narcissistic supply in part from this bigger narcissistic personality, then they will somehow please this person by sacrificing their child, me, the child, to please this person that is the larger narcissist or the cult leader. So I'm born into a family of narcissistic people. In order for my parents to gain narcissistic supply and feel as important as they should, because hello, they're amazing, they do everything that they possibly can, including and but not limited to sacrificing their child, me. Take my child and do with it what you will. We trust you implicitly. And then my narcissistic parents are raised up into a place of leadership among this larger narcissistic person who is sadistic and just on a power trip. So, and then that, of course, is all psychological in nature. There's sexual, there's physical, there's financial, there's ritual, of course, but a lot of it is psychological in nature. And then the after effects of all of this, the trifecta is, boom, we have 40-year-olds walking around going, okay, I am now remembering more things, and I am having dissociation, I'm having PTSD type symptoms, I am hypervigilant at all times, I'm losing time here and there, I'm not able to sleep as well, I'm going I'm feeling high highs and low lows, I'm struggling with relationships, I'm having trouble with my job. I thought I healed from all of this. What's my problem? And the problem is that likely all of these things have come into play. So please let me know if that was helpful for you. I want to say this. I really want to say this to Gary and anyone else that's in our ritual abuse community. I am not going to sit here on this side of the camera and pretend that I've been through what you've been through. Because bottom line is, the person that my narcissistic parents sacrificed me to, the cult leader that my parents sacrificed me to, was a member of my own family. And my own family wasn't really into like controlling an entire cult. It was just the cult within our family. And so yes, I've endured similar abuse to you guys, the ritual abuse survivors, but it's not as textbook calculated dates, times, sacrifices, behaviors, mind control. The elements are there, but it's not as deep, and it's not as there wasn't a concrete system in place that is to the degree that your concrete system was put in place, to where certain dates come around, dates on a calendar that you can't avoid because time still marches on. I don't have those triggers that you guys have. And I can't sit on this side of the camera and pretend that I have all the answers to the ritual abuse survivor community. I will not pretend that I do, and I don't want to insult your intelligence or your healing journey and insult you in any way by pretending that I know everything, because I don't. I haven't lived through what you've lived through to the degree that you've lived through it. All of us have experienced trauma, but I am not ever the person that says I'm an expert on ritual abuse. Do I have some knowledge? Have I had clients who have been through satanic ritual abuse, cult abuse, religious abuse? Yes. Yes, I have. Have I lived through some things that are very similar? Yes, I have. For 10 solid years of my life, every single week on a Wednesday, I was picked up by one of my family members and driven 40 miles away to go meet with someone who would drug me, do things to me, and then I would get taken back home. But it was all for my own good. So that was a good 10-year chunk. And yes, that person that was driving me was like the leader of the cult. That was my family, but can I prove it? And are there books written about my family? No. Is it as like concrete and systematized as the abuse that the ritual abuse community and the SRA community has been through? Not by a long shot. I'm not the expert, and I will never insult you in that way in pretending that I am. There are many people in our community who are watching right now and who are going to be watching this replay who could answer every question on RA and SRA and blow your minds, and they're the experts because they've survived it. So I hope that I've done this topic some justice and tied it into tonight's topic of narcissistic parent psychological abuse and CPTSD in a way that makes sense. Let me know if you would, because I would like to know. Monica says, how can we heal from such great loss that narcissists cause in the lives of their victims through triangulation and gaslighting with other family members? Ooh, Monica, that is such a powerful question and an excellent question and a loaded question. I'm going to read it one more time so you guys know there's more lingo being used here. So Monica wants to know, how can we heal from such great loss that the narcissists cause in the lives of their victims through triangulation, gaslighting, those two vocabulary words. We already talked about flying monkeys. So triangulation is very similar to flying monkeys. Only what happens is when what happens with triangulation is when the narcissist or the abuser is trying to get to you, and they're kind of unsuccessful, but they know they would be successful. And triangulation usually happens, by the way, when you're still in touch and you haven't gone low contact or no contact with your abuser. FYI, that's when triangulation happens. So the abuser, the alpha, we'll call them, even though they're really not like up to being called the alpha, but we'll just call them the alpha for all intents and purposes. So the abuser, the alpha, wants to get to you but has been unsuccessful. And so what they do is they decide that they want to watch as someone else gets to you and devours you and triggers you and upsets you. And they want to have you open your mouth and hurt that person, or have the person that they're using to triangulate, because see, it's a triangle. See, the alpha, there's you, and then there's the one other person. The way this would look is the abuser wants to hurt you and wants to devalue you because you aren't doing what they want you to do. Okay? And they're not successful. And so what they do is they go, they get the third person of the triangle, the triangulation, and they go, I'm really not sure what's going on with Athena. I'm kind of worried about her. Like, she says this, this, and this, and she's acting this way, and she's doing these things. And I mean, she kind of said this about you too. I mean, what do you think? And so then the third person of the triangle is like, ah! And then they come after us. All while the alpha, the abuser, just sits back and watches and goes, and they love it. And also what happens is they will use gaslighting, the other vocabulary word that Monica used. And what gaslighting is, as we know, is they want us to believe we're crazy. And they want the third person in the triangle to believe that they're crazy too, if they can get them to believe that they're crazy. And so what they do is they talk to the third person in the triangle that they're using for this triangulation tactic, and they go, I mean, isn't this true? And don't you think that it would be horrible if this happened? And I'm really not sure about Athena. I mean, I think this is what's going on. And then, you know, she says this, but is that really true? And by the way, I know you guys are really, really close, but like, are you really that close? Because if you were that close, wouldn't you have already known this? And so the third person in the triangle that's being used to triangulate is now questioning their own reality. They're questioning their own sanity. They're questioning their relationship with me. And they're questioning my intentions. They're questioning every single thing I've ever said or done, because the abuser, the alpha, has caused this beautiful shitstorm. And they're just sitting back and going, I can't wait to watch this go down. So to answer Monica's question, which is a good one, which is how can we heal from that scenario that I just painted, when the person that's being triangulated, you, and the third person in the triangle is another family member that you are supposed to be able to love and trust. So how do we heal from the carnage and the devastation of being betrayed by not only our abuser, but the other family member that's in the triangle? And the question is, it takes a lot of time, or the answer to your question, Monica, is very carefully and over a very long period of time. And honestly, it takes a lot of education. The thing that's helped me the most, Monica, and what helps the largest amount of people in our community, is by getting a strong sense of self. By asking someone who's safe, this is what happened. This happened, this happened, and this happened. Does that seem right to you? My abuser said this, this, and this, and they're triangulating my sister. And now my sister is saying this, this, and this about me and questioning me in these areas. Does that make any sense? I mean, because now you're being triggered by the fact that the third person in the triangle is being gaslit. So their gaslighting triggers the fact that you were being gaslit. And so now you're questioning your reality. Why? Because you were programmed to question your reality. And when someone else that you love is being programmed and devastated and destroyed the way you've been devastated and destroyed, and you see the whole thing going down, and you can't stop it. It's like a train wreck. And you're like, no. Like you can't even prove to the other person that the abuser is the crazy one, because they have this, they've been spinning this smear campaign for years and years and years, like almost like dropping hints, to where now all they have to do is go, remember all the way back to like 2010, I've been telling you that these little things have been happening. Now, look, the evidence is right in front of you. I think Athena's doing these things. And so then the third person in the triangle is like, they know that the abuser has built their case. They've been smearing, they've been launching the smear campaign for a good 17 years or a good 7 years. Like, right? It's like if the abuser launched the campaign in like 2010, the smear campaign, then they've been sort of luring and trying to garner sympathy and like play the victim and do whatever they can for all the flying monkeys. And so here's this one flying monkey who happens to be your sister, maybe your bestie, and now she's being triangulated, and her mouth opens, and then your like abuser's words come out, and they were a trusted confidant. And so to heal from that takes a lot of time, and it takes you knowing how to find a safe person to go, these are the facts. Does this make any sense? Like, this is psychological warfare. Look at what this person is saying. They're saying it to my sister. She was my best friend. Like, I thought I could trust her. Now I don't have any family left. And this is devastating. And what am I supposed to do, Athena? Oh my gosh, you know? So the way we heal from that is carefully and deeply and over time. But you have to have safe people that you can reach out to, which is why our safe groups are so good. Any safe group that you can find on Facebook, you guys, it doesn't have to be one of our safe groups. Like, we don't have some cult going, you know? Are our safe groups amazing? Yes, they're amazing. Do we do our best to vet everyone and make sure that everyone's safe? Yes. But could you find another safe group filled with safe people who are healing also, and could it benefit you just as much? Absolutely. Like, we don't have the corner on the market of safe groups. Like, just find somewhere that you can be safe in the company of other people who are not in touch with your abusers, okay? And give yourself some time and really fact find. Find out the facts. Look at the facts. Fact, this is the abuser. Fact, the abuse happened. Fact, they're luring and gaslighting my family member. That's a fact. The way they're doing it is through this tactic. They've been doing it for this amount of time. And you make yourself a timeline, and you do fact finding. And if you're on a fact finding mission and you educate yourself on the internet and you watch all amazing, Monica, I know you watch the most amazing videos and you share them with me week after week, and I'm so grateful. So definitely continue to do everything that you're doing, and just give yourself some time. Give yourself some patience and some time. And that's not the easiest thing for me to say, because patience and time, like, that, it's the last thing you guys want to hear from me, but that's the truth. So I hope that was helpful, Monica. Gabby Kitty says, my mom isn't a full-blown narcissist, but she has some traits, and I have a lot of guilt at times about being low contact with her. How do I get rid of the good daughter complex and be okay? Ooh, this is such a good question. Okay, Gabby Kitty. The guilt that you are being tripped up by, all these guilt trips that, you know, pack your bags, you're going on a guilt trip. It's all false. And it's just a manipulation tactic. It's not even real. I know that the guilt you feel is real, but you're not hurting a person, like a real live person with all real live feelings and emotions. If your mom is not a full-blown narcissist, meaning that she hasn't been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or she doesn't tick off all the boxes in the DSM, then she has highly pronounced narcissistic traits, meaning that she's manipulative, or she's exploitative, or she lacks empathy. The guilt you feel is real, but the only thing that you're going to really benefit from, truthfully, is making a decision every day, perhaps several times a day. What is more important? me feeling less guilty or me being sane. To weigh the two on a scale, and you're going to have to choose who wins. Because I still have guilt. It's much less now, but there are occasions when I feel guilty. Like today, I was searching for an email from someone, and I was in my items that I had flagged or archived or whatever it was on my MacBook, and I ran across emails from one of my abusers, and they were nice emails. And I'm looking and I'm like, wow, they're hoovering me. Wow, that was like so classic narcissistic. That's a narc tactic. Wow. Oh my gosh, I fell for that. I fell for that. And then there's this little tiny voice inside me like, you're so mean, Athena. Like, what if they're being real and authentic? Like, what if you're misjudging this whole thing? What if there really is good in there and you just don't see it? And so I felt a little bit guilty today. But the bottom line is, I need to decide on a daily basis for me, and you can only decide this for you. No one can make this choice for you, Gabby Kitty. I need to decide for me, and you need to decide for you, if your sanity or my sanity is more important than the approval of your abuser, or if my sanity is more important than the approval of my abuser. And I need to make that decision multiple times every day, every day, every day, every day. I even have a pit in my stomach right now as I even say it, because it's like, how selfish am I? And then I have that old inner critic voice that came from my childhood. You're so selfish. You're so selfish. You're so ungrateful, right? And I breathe my way through it and I go, you know what? No, like my sanity matters. It just does. My sanity matters. And I'm telling you, Gabby Kitty, that your sanity matters. And I hope this has been helpful for you. The good daughter complex is so hard. You know what, Gabby Kitty, have you read Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers? Oh, there's another one called Will I Ever Be Enough? And then there's another one. Oh gosh, there's another one. I can't remember the name of the other one. But, Monica. Someone find Monica and ask Monica what the name of that book is that she just read recently. I think it's by Beverly Engel. Anyway, that might be a good book. Monica, if you think that that book might help Gabby Kitty, would you tag Gabby Kitty and give her the title of that book? Because I can't remember the name of it right now because I have too much going on. I'm sorry. Let's see. Ooh. Okay, this is the very last minute for you guys to get your questions in, and then I'm going to continue with all the questions for the next 30 minutes. So get your question in right now if you can. Jenna says, have you heard of imagining a present, ideal, loving, and nurturing person and using this imagined person to cope with flashbacks and bad memories? Is this actually helpful? My counselor has suggested it. So far, I just feel resentful that I need to imagine what I didn't have as opposed to the real thing, which I know can't happen now. But ... Okay, this is something I have heard of, and it can be very helpful, Jenna. I'm going to read that question again for any of you who are currently in a therapeutic relationship with a licensed professional, and they are asking you to imagine someone who is ideal and loving and nurturing, and then asking yourself what this person would say to you during something, or what they would want for you, or what would their message be to you. I'm assuming that's what you mean, Jenna. So Jenna says, have you heard of imagining a present, ideal, loving, and nurturing person and using this imagined person to cope with flashbacks and bad memories? Is this actually helpful? My counselor has suggested it, and so far I just feel resentful that I need to imagine what I didn't have as opposed to the real thing, which I know can't happen now. So first of all, Jenna, I just want to say high fives. Like, go you for getting in touch with your anger. If it took your therapist recommending an imaginary person for you to get in touch with your anger, then I just want to give that therapist a hug. Do you know how many of my clients can't access their anger They can't. I'm one of them too. I'm one of those people that has a hard time accessing my anger. I remember just for years and years and years, scream into the pillow, Athena. What would you say, Athena? How angry are you, Athena? What makes you angry? Aren't you angry? Isn't it horrible what happened? Can you believe that? I mean, you were an innocent child. You were a little girl. You were defenseless. You were so young. Like, doesn't that make you mad? Doesn't it make you angry? And I'd be like, I got nothing. Like, and the fact that you're able to access your anger, Jenna, I'm almost jealous. I'm almost envious of that because it took me so long to access my anger. And the reason it took me so long, and if that's you and you have not you, Jenna, but anyone else out there, if you have trouble accessing your anger from a narcissistic parent, specifically a mother-daughter situation, you're not alone. And chances are you came from a situation where you were never allowed to feel any real feelings unless they were happy feelings. And if you complained about anything, you were told you were ungrateful. And if you were anything but compliant, then you were horrible. You were a brat. You were a snot-nosed brat. Or I'll give you something to cry about. Or like your feelings were not valued as a human. The only feelings that you were ever allowed to feel were feelings of happiness, and the only emotions you were allowed to have were those of compliance and gratitude. So, Jenna, the fact that you can access your anger right now is amazing. High fives. But to answer your original question, the root of your question, which is, have I heard of that type of technique or tactic used in therapy? Yes, I have. And can it be helpful? Yes, it can. When it is most helpful, if I can't come up with the imaginary person, like if I just can't even imagine what that imaginary person would even look like or sound like because I have no frame of reference of what like a caring, loving person would be, then I remember one of my therapists actually was that person for me, and they helped sort of reparent me in a way. And that you run the risk, if your therapist is doing that, you run the risk of attaching to them, especially if you have attachment trauma. And so I don't recommend that you have your therapist be your person. I recommend you do what your therapist tells you to do always, especially if they're trauma informed. But what worked for me, Jenna, I hope this helps you somehow, is when I couldn't, well, first of all, you're in touch with your anger. So go you. Like, I'm just like, go with that girl. Like, feel all your feels. I'm so stoked for you. But if you get to a point where you just can't imagine, like, what that imaginary person would say, feel, and think, then find something that you absolutely love in your own life right now. Like, what is something that you nurture? Is there anything that you nurture? I remember when one of my practitioners asked me this question, I'm like, no, I'm not even a mom anymore. My son's gone. He's in the military. And I was just like, inconsolable. Like, no, I have nothing. I don't nurture anything anymore. I'm just useless. I was just not in a place. But they're like, well, what about like pets? Do you have any pets? No, I don't have any pets. They're like, and then I remember I got a fish. And I was so excited because I got a fish, and I'm like, yes, now how do I nurture my fish? And I was like trying to like figure out like what are some of the things I do to nurture my fish? I feed the fish, I change the fish's water, etc. Then my fish died, and I was like, see, I suck. Oh my gosh, it's because I had no nurturing people. But then my practitioner pointed out that I love orchids, and that I'm really good at keeping them alive, and I can get them to bloom like time and again and time and again. And they're very, very finicky flowers. They just die all the time, and you can't water them more than like once every couple of weeks. Like you can't, you will kill them. And if you are someone that knows how to take care of orchids, go teach me. But it's something that I really liked. And so I was able to use that sort of metaphor and apply it to my imaginary person. I hope that helps, Jenna. That was a long answer, but I hope that was helpful in some way. Find something that is a nurturing thing that you can actually put handles on, that you can actually see, touch, and feel, and then apply that. And that will be helpful. But the fact that you can reach your anger and like see it and feel it, I'm so stoked for you, because you're going to heal faster. By the way, fun fact, if you can feel your anger and feel all your feels, you'll heal faster. Did you know that? I'm telling you, it's the truth. Let me get some water, you guys. Okay, thank you for your patience, for your time and your attention, as Richard would say. Let's see here. Anne says, what exactly is the difference between narcissists and sociopaths? My mother was a narcissist and a sociopath. No feelings and no conscience. Thank you, Anne. This is an excellent question. And thank you, Jenna, by the way. That was an excellent question as well. All of your guys' questions are so good. So, Anne, the difference between a narcissist and a sociopath are exactly what you listed. And that is narcissists, there are listed, like if you type in the word narcissist on Google, list of 7 characteristics, and many of them are like, you know, they feel like they're very self-important. They have a grandiose sense of self. There are a list of narcissistic characteristics, right? They're manipulative, et cetera, et cetera. But a sociopath or a psychopath, they're interchangeable, by the way. Psychopath, sociopath, they're the same thing. They lack empathy, and they have the inability to take into consideration not only another person's feelings, but like why another person's feelings would like ever matter, like ever. They just have no sense of anything. They just have no remorse. They have the inability to feel guilt, inability to feel shame. But interestingly, they're deeply shame-based creatures. So that's the irony of it. The basic difference, Anne, is a narcissist believes that their feelings matter the most and that they are the most in every way. And a sociopath doesn't even consider that anything else even, like, they don't even think about it. Like, they don't even consider that anybody would be, their feelings would be taken into consideration. And if pain, what pain? Like, why would their pain matter? Like a narcissist is like, my feelings matter the most. Sure, other people have feelings, and they'll like mirror you and they'll mimic you. And they'll, if they see that something bothers you, they know that that bothers normal people. And so they'll actually feign or pretend to be bothered by certain things that normal people would be bothered by. So narcissists do that. But sociopaths don't even bother. They just do whatever they want, and they have no shame and no guilt and no empathy and no compassion, and they don't take anybody else's anything into consideration. The narcissist takes people's feelings into consideration and chooses their own feelings over everybody else's. And then if you add like Machiavellianism into all of that, they're very then you have like a dark triad. So then they're very cannibalistic, and they're very cunning, and they're unscrupulous, and they don't care about the rules of society, and they'll break the law, and they'll lie, and they'll cheat, and they'll steal. And if you add the fourth one, which is sadism, where they really like to hurt people and it makes them smile, then you have a dark tetrad, like my main abuser. Not good. The smile was sarcasm, by the way. Enter sarcasm for any of you that are about ready to, send me hate mail. You're much too happy talking about this type of topic, Athena. What's wrong with you? Are you the narcissist? You're the dark tetrad. That's what's going on. Yeah, I get those letters. So if you have someone who's narcissistic, they are more important than you. If you have someone who's narcissistic and sociopathic, not only do they mean more than you, but you like never even came across the radar, and they have no guilt about it whatsoever. And then someone who's Machiavellian, and then you have the dark triad, then they're very unscrupulous, and they'll lie, cheat, steal, and not only do they do that, but they don't care about it, remember, and then their feelings are more important, but nobody else even matters, so why are we even having this conversation? And then the fourth characteristic, which brings up the dark tetrad, is sadism, and that's when they just sit back and they just love it when like there's, people are hurting and there's bloodshed, and, those are the people usually that will like harm animals. My main abuser murdered my cat when I was 5. And prior to that, hung the neighbor's cat because the cat was meowing. And then subsequently, like 20 years down the road, murdered another cat, pretended it was like an accident, and like lied about it, enter Machiavellianism. And then even after that, they were kicking one of their dogs. The dog bit them. They played the victim. Poor me, I was bitten by my dog. And then when the truth came out that they were kicking their dog, there was like no guilt, no shame, no nothing. They flew into a narcissistic rage. So that's I laid out all of it, you guys. I laid out narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and sadism. It's like, ugh, right? These people exist. I swear to you. It's not just like, this isn't clickbait. This isn't just a fun topic to talk about on YouTube. These people exist and they procreate and then they do horrible things to their children. Anne, would you let me know if that was helpful, please? I'm sorry that your mom was a narcissist and that she was a sociopath and that she had no feelings and no conscience, and you didn't deserve to be raised in that environment, and you matter and you're an amazing person. And it just breaks my heart. Aaron Gutnecht, welcome, Aaron. Are you new? Maybe I've never said hello to you before, but if I haven't, hello, hello. I'm so excited you're here. Aaron says, can growing up with a narcissistic parent give you narcissistic tendencies? I feel like I play out patterns I watched my dysfunctional parents play out at times. Yes. Okay. Yes and no. First of all, let me just say this, okay? Can growing up with narcissistic parents cause you to play? There were two questions there. One was, can you take on their narcissistic traits, I think is how you worded it. And then the other one is, you find yourself playing out the things that you saw played out. So can it give you narcissistic tendencies and then playing out patterns? So narcissistic tendencies here, playing out the patterns that you saw here. So you're raised by narcissistic parents, and while you could turn into a narcissist and have narcissistic tendencies, if you're asking that question and you see that that's something that you don't want and you're like, gosh, I hope I don't turn into my parents, you're likely not a narcissist, because again, they're the best, they're amazing, and their feelings and everything about them matters more than everyone else. And they see no problem with anything that they're doing. So if you have a problem with picking up their tendencies, then you're likely not a narcissist. Now, repeating their patterns is a whole nother question. Yes, we can repeat our patterns the dysfunctional patterns that our parents played out, not even knowing that they're abusive, if that makes sense. And the fact that you're noticing that you're playing out the same dysfunctional patterns or that they're playing out in your life means that you are likely not a narcissist. Do you have some narcissistic tendencies? Maybe. And let me just be really clear about something, by the way. Every single person in the entire planet has a little narcissist in them. Little. Depending on how many of your insides were scooped out and replaced with your abusive parents, your narcissistic, sociopathic, Machiavellian, sadistic parent, it depends on how many of your real inner parts were scooped out and replaced with them, so that you're just an extension of them. But everyone has a little n in them, and a little n is healthy. Having a little n inside of us versus a big N, like a capital N, which is a malignant narcissist that's exploitative and preys on others. Everyone has a little n inside of them. Even if all their insides were scooped out and replaced by their malignant narcissistic parents, there's still a little n living in there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be breathing. That little n helps us survive. That little n says, I'm hungry and I need food. That little n says, I smell, I need a shower. That little n says, I should brush my teeth. That little n says, I matter. I'm gonna sleep on a normal mattress. I'm not just gonna allow myself to live in these conditions. That's a little n. Now, many of the people in our community struggle and they need a little bit more of a little n. They don't have enough of themselves, a healthy sense of self left, because it was all scooped out by predatory parents. And it was replaced by toxicity. And like I often describe it as like that toxic green ooze that floats through the air on the Scooby-Doo cartoons. Like our insides were scooped out and they were replaced with all that toxic green ooze that just, it's like yuck, disgustingness that they gave us of them. We're just extensions of them. And we're only in their good graces if we're doing everything they want us to do, but the rules change every day. So how do we keep up? We don't. So again, like I went kind of on and on and on, but you can take on their narcissistic tendencies, but probably not to the point where they're malignant. Otherwise you wouldn't be concerned about it. And we can play out the patterns that we watched them play out, but we can right the wrongs. We can, it's never too late. Like we can cultivate healthy interpersonal relationships. If you've made it to this YouTube video, you have the wherewithal to find out something that's going on, and it's not too late for you. So while there might be dysfunctional patterns playing out in your life, like there were in mine, I knew that there had to be a better way. And even though almost all of my insides were scooped out and replaced with disgusting, predatory people's junk, I somehow knew that that wasn't the way I wanted to live. And now here I am, and I'm trying to help other people. So we do play out the patterns, and we repeat those patterns until we realize it's a pattern and that we can break it. And then we become cycle breakers. And I'm a cycle breaker. And many people that are here live right now are cycle breakers. You watching the replay, you're a cycle breaker. Otherwise you wouldn't be watching this far into the video. No one watches for an hour and 15 minutes or over an hour on how to heal from something, and they're still, you know, predatory and wanting to harm people. Like, you're not the problem. You were abused. So I hope this has been helpful for you, Erin. I'm so glad you asked the question. Joey says, what do you think about exposure therapy? I had a rough Christmas last year, and it ended with me in the hospital because of an overdose. Every time I hear a Christmas song, I go into a flashback. My therapist wants me to do exposure therapy so my Christmas isn't ruined this year, but I am terrified. What do you suggest? Should I do it? Ooh, okay. I might not be the best person to ask, Joey, because I am of the opinion that exposure therapy works for some things and not for others. And overdose is not one of the things that I believe exposure therapy works for. And the narcissistic abuse and the level of predatory behavior that's gone on in your life. I don't think that it's a good idea. That's just my opinion. These videos are not mental health care. They're not a replacement for professional help. But when does exposure therapy work? Well, I believe that exposure therapy works for agoraphobia. I believe exposure therapy can work for body dysmorphia. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that if I'm afraid to leave my house because I'm going to have a panic attack, I know it, because when I leave my house, I have a panic attack, or someone's going to ask me a question and then it's going to be painful and I'm not going to know how to answer them. And oh my gosh, I know that if I leave my house and I get into my car and I drive somewhere and I have a relatively positive experience, I exposed myself to the fear and I survived and it worked. So that is an instance when exposure therapy is helpful. How is exposure therapy helpful for body dysmorphia? Well, people that live with body dysmorphia, me, I struggle with looking at my body. I obsess over tiny little pieces and parts of my body. I chipped my toenail the other day and I was like devastated, thinking that everybody in the whole wide world, hundreds of people that I was going to see at church were going to be like, she is disgusting. Look at her toenail and it's chipped. Like, she's gross. Look at her. Like, that's irrational. I know that it's irrational. Now, is it part of my mental illness? Yeah. It's part of my mental illness. I live with body dysmorphia. I know that I went to church. I wore open-toed shoes even. I didn't have to, but I did. And no one said anything about my toenails. When is another situation when exposure therapy might work with body dysmorphia? Well, people who live with body dysmorphia don't like to see their body, especially if they're not super duper 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 skinny. Like if they have like jiggly parts, like lovely lady lumps, like me, women with lovely lady lumps do not like to see anything jiggle on their body. They are convinced that they are fat and disgusting. So when can exposure therapy help you? Standing in front of the mirror for 5 minutes a day and doing some exercises and watching your amazing body that carries you through life every single day actually do some exercises. That's when exposure therapy is actually helpful. If you're physically disabled and you're unable to do certain exercises, sitting in front of a mirror, perhaps you're in a wheelchair, perhaps you're disabled in some way, but exposing yourself to your greatest fear, which is, I suck, I'm horrible, my body is horrible, I hate my body, it's disgusting, and it's disgusting for the following reasons, and yet like challenging that line of thought, You know what I mean? Like for instance, I don't like how like my arm like, you know, like moves or whatever. You can't really see it on this video. There you go. It moved. See? Like, I don't like that. It freaks me out. It makes me feel like I'm just fat and disgusting because my arm does this like jiggly thing. So I don't wear things that show my arms very often. Although today I did a periscope really fast over here on YouTube, and to do the poll that's over on my Twitter profile, which I need to just tell you about really quick in a few minutes after I finish your questions. And I was wearing just a normal dress that actually showed my skin and it showed my arms. That was big. That was huge for me. Exposure therapy, that's when it works. However, Joey, wrapping it all around and tying a bow on this bad boy, I didn't almost overdose and kill myself before I left the house the other day. I didn't almost overdose and kill myself because my arm does this moving thingy, and it like the little flab on my arm like moves, my chicken wing, right? My life is not in the balance. That's, to me, when exposure therapy can be helpful. So, no, I'm not of the opinion that, and I don't know the details of what exposure therapy this person is trying to put you through. Now, if it's having you listen to some Christmas songs, I think listening to some Christmas songs while you're in the company of your therapist and you're in a safe environment, maybe that type of exposure therapy might be okay, because you're not likely to overdose in your therapist's office while listening to Christmas songs. So maybe if that's how they're looking to do the exposure therapy, maybe it would be helpful. It might be. Trust your professional if your professional is trauma informed. So I really can't, you know, I hope that was helpful. That was a lot of different examples. Poppy says, my no contact was broken recently. It feels so much more overwhelming and harder to get the boundaries back in place. I've moved, I've changed phone numbers, and it is still not working. Oh, Poppy, I'm so sorry. Okay, so no contact is when you have an abusive person, a toxic person in your life, and you've decided to cut off contact with them and make it impossible, or as impossible as possible, for that the abuser or the toxic person can't reach out and connect with you. And Poppy's saying that her no contact, which was her boundary, so that the other toxic person couldn't reach out and connect with her, her no contact was broken recently. And her boundaries have been violated. And she's finding it really, really, really hard to reestablish and maintain new boundaries. And it doesn't feel as good as it felt before. And Poppy, my question to you and my advice to you is, I just want to encourage you to, if there's any element of shame in this, like that, if there's any part of you that's like, I was doing so good for so long, and then I must have done something wrong, and since I did something wrong, now the boundary was broken and it's my fault. And if there's any part of you that's shaming yourself because the no contact was broken, I want to encourage you to reframe that and flip that around a little bit if you can. And let's look at some facts, and let's look at how it wasn't all your fault, and how the circumstances played out the way they played out. And yes, your no contact was broken, but shaming yourself, or if you're feeling bad about it, like I woulda, shoulda, coulda done it differently, and then this wouldn't be going on, that's not going to get you any farther. So if there's any magical thinking involved, like if I would have done this, if I would have done that, then I wouldn't have broken my no contact. Like if there's any bargaining that's going on there, then I would encourage you to reframe that. But as far as feeling better, like I just want to share with you, Poppy, that you know, you've moved, you've changed your phone number, and you want to get your boundaries back in place, and it's still not working. I want to just ask you to give it some time. I want you to look at it, and I want you to be like, how long did it take me to go no contact last time and get all the boundaries in place that were helping me feel better? And give yourself some grace. You deserve some grace, Poppy. You've been through so much lately. So I have the privilege of knowing a little bit about your situation. So I'm hoping you're not shaming yourself, and I'm hoping that you'll be kind to yourself and give yourself some more time, because it's going to take some time for you to feel safe again. And that's what I'm getting, is like you're wondering, when am I going to feel safe again, perhaps? So let's see. Anne says, how in the world do you take up for yourself when the narcissist makes up bogus negative stories about you in order to sway others against you? So Anne, what you're describing is a smear campaign, flying monkeys, and possibly triangulation. And the only thing you can do to take up for yourself or stand up for yourself is to not stand up for yourself, is to just ignore it, because all the narcissist wants is attention. And while the logical thing to do is to stand up for yourself and set the record straight, they're banking on the fact that you're going to care enough to set the record straight. They probably are like, and 3, 2, 1, boom, she's going to call and she's going to try to set the record straight. They have it down to the minute. They have it down to the second. They are predicting, because your character is so pure and so consistent and so healthy, they're predicting that you're going to want to keep the record straight. And so they're just going to smear, smear, smear. They're going to get more flying monkeys. They're going to try to triangulate. And the best way for you to stand up for yourself is counterintuitive, and that is to just not. Let your character speak for itself. Everybody that knows you and really knows you knows that what that person is saying is just not true. And I'm going to give you guys a personal example in this. I have some flying monkeys that I love dearly. Like, I love them, with capital L, capital O, capital V, capital E, some flying monkeys in my life. I love them. Like, I would give my life for them. When their mouth opens up and they're repeating a smear campaign, or I can tell that they're in the middle of a triangulation situation and they're a flying monkey, I just bite my tongue. I sit back and I wait. I don't even gratify it with a response. I remain passive in the situation, and I don't do what the narcissist thinks I'm going to do, which is set the record straight. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm so sorry you're going through this, because it's super duper 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 painful. Seriously. Willow says, the hardest thing for me to deal with surrounding all of the abuse is the mindfuckery of the kindness that's enmeshed within the relationship with both the abusers and the enablers. Yes, the mindfuckery is what keeps us crazy, you guys. And what do we mean by mindfuckery? And for those of you who are offended by me saying mindfuckery, you can replace mindfuckery with like mind games, mind muckery, as Bobby would say. Like, it just is what it is. Like, it really is a mind screw. They're really fucking with your mind. So it is mind fuckery. They're messing with your mind muckery. And that is one of the hardest things to deal with, Willow. And the kindness enmeshed, okay, so there's idealization, and then there's devaluation. There's idealization and there's devaluation. So at least there's words for this stuff now, right? So Willow, I would encourage you to look up idealization and devaluation and sort of educate yourself on the inner workings of idealization and devaluation. Because if you look at it from a clinical perspective and you step away from it, away from your own personal situation, and you go, wow, this is like so predictable. If they're doing this, oh, that's idealization. Oh, then they're doing this. Oh, that's devaluation. Like, it is crazy making. It is one of the hardest things to deal with. I want to validate you. It is one of the hardest things to deal with, Willow. It's confusing. Oh, and why is it so confusing? Why, right? When we apply logic to a narcissist or an abuser or a toxic person, who suffers? We suffer. It's so illogical. They're nice, they're not nice. They're being nice, and the enablers, they're being nice to me, but it's like, are they luring me, or are they like waking up and realizing that the narcissist is a narcissist? Oh, they were luring. What was I thinking? I can't believe I fell for it. Shame, 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 shame. And you're like, nope, I'm wise now. And then the narcissist decides to be nice. And so they're like luring, and you're like, maybe they've changed their colors. Maybe they've changed. Maybe they've seen the error in their ways. Maybe I won them over finally. No, 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 no. So if any of you out there, Willow included, are thinking that the colors of the narcissist are going to change, they're going to change their tune, they're going to change their colors. If you think that they no longer have control over the flying monkeys or the enablers, and they're just going to change and they're going to see the error in their ways and they're no longer going to scapegoat you, that's not going to happen. I've never seen it happen. Ever. If someone is malignantly narcissistic and exploitative, they don't change. They're predictably mind-fucking individuals. They like to mess with people's minds. They live to see the change of expression on your face. If you're fine, and then they're mean to you and you go, they live to see that change on your face. Or if you're like, I'm not moving, I am fine, I'm not gonna fall for their shit, I am strong, and then they're nice to you and they see you like this, and then they're nice to you and you go, and your face changes just ever so slightly because you have hope. They live for that. The subtle changes, like you're like, nope, I'm fine, I'm resolute, and they're not gonna get to me. And then they're nice to you and you go, that slight subtle thing that I just did, the little, they live for that. They live for it. Just so you know, it's like the best narcissistic supply in the world for them. If you're their favorite, if you're their very favorite milkshake, as Richard would say, they live for the shift in your facial expression. They're like, I know I can get to her. Watch this. And they'll say something and you'll go. And they're just like, they love it. They suck it up. They love it. So that was evil and messed up. Sorry, guys, but that's the truth. But I agree with you, Willow. It is the hardest. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, is it common for the words said during, after, and surrounding the sexual abuse to be the most haunting, cringing, lingering, and mind-screwing words? Yes, it is common. Especially Heroes Don't Wear Capes if the words were kind. Like if they were kind words that were spoken. And if they were like words that you have longed to hear your entire life, or words that loving parents should have said, or words that someone that was being honest would normally say. Yes, that is absolutely normal. And that's a really great question. So thank you. Stu says, as a parent, can you see the signs that your child is being groomed by a narcissistic predator? Yes, you can if you have experience with narcissistic abuse yourself, and if you're questioning yourself and going, maybe I'm just being paranoid, trust your gut. I'm just saying trust your gut, like as often as possible, Stu. And do whatever you can in your power as a parent, you know? It depends on how deep the predator has their claws into your child and how old your child is. If it's an adult child and there's an adult predator who's sunk their teeth into your adult child, it's unlikely that we can do anything about that other than just be a safe place when it all falls apart. But if your child is young, then escape, run, do whatever you can to get the child that's not an adult, like that's a child, get them away from the predator. And yes, you can sense it. You can see it. Don't ever think you're overreacting. Trust your gut. You have a gut feeling that something bad's happening and that they're being groomed. Yes, they're being groomed. Like, just trust your gut, seriously. Grace Hope asks, if you were made to drink the blood of God, Do you think that was a form of some kind of ritual abuse? Yes. Grace Hope, yes. Yes, yes, yes. So again, I'm not the expert on ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse. I'm not the expert, and I don't want to insult anyone who is a member of that community because you guys have been through a lot, but that is abuse. That is ritual abuse. That is cult abuse. That is abuse. Being forced to drink the blood of anything is abuse because the human body isn't meant to be able to digest blood. Like it hits a gag reflex. At least on most people it does. You can look it up as well, but it will usually blood, depending on the consistency of the blood and what the blood is from, it will hit a gag reflex close to your esophagus and you won't be able to digest it. And it will actually make you physically ill. So yes, that is abusive. And that is, I believe, religious abuse. Grace Hope, I believe that is religious abuse and possibly ritual abuse, but I can't be certain because I wasn't there and I'm not sure. Let's see. Poppy says, is it common for an abuser to say and believe that they own you? This has been frequently said to me since childhood. Yes, Poppy, you are a possession. You are an extension of the abuser if they're narcissistic. Narcissists honestly believe that they own everything and that everything belongs to them and that we're just like extensions of them. We're meant to bring them joy. We're meant to succeed so that they can look better. We're like little trophies. So yes, and if you're in an adult relationship, an adult interpersonal romantic relationship with a narcissist, like there's like the trophy wife situation, like they really believe that. They just believe it. Are they right? Like, is it logical? No. But remember, when we apply logic to a narcissist situation, who suffers? We suffer because they're not logical. Rebecca says, how do I get logic and emotions to match when I'm under narcissistic attack? My head knows they're full of it and yet I panic anyway. Ooh, Rebecca, this is a good question. So it's tough and you're not always going to know. You're not always going to know, like, it's like you're still under the spell, right? The only way to really survive and to break that off and to really be able to discern is to have no contact or low contact with that toxic individual that's triggering that feeling of panic. I know that that's a controversial thing to say, but I don't know any other way to help you feel better other than to tell you to go no contact or low contact. Otherwise, that feeling of panic is always going to happen, even if you know they're full of shit. I know cognitively that my abuser is handicapped and old and unable to harm me physically. But if I think that I'm receiving an email or a phone call or a text, or I'm going to be in the same state as them, I have panic attacks. I'm still under the spell. I have to remain no contact and not allow the contact. Otherwise, it triggers mind control. Mind control. Mind control. It is real, you guys. This is real. So, Rebecca, that's an excellent question. And the only way I know to tell you to feel better and to not feel panicked is to not allow contact whatsoever. And you deserve that. Please do whatever you can to not allow yourself to need to be in contact with them if it's possible at all. And if you're co-parenting and you have to stay in contact with this person that's triggering you because you both have a child together, then they have apps for that. And go over to Angie Atkinson's YouTube channel, and she recorded a video last week called Parenting with a Narcissist. There's an app for that. But apart from parenting with a narcissist, you're divorced and you're not in daily contact, but you're raising a child together somehow, which they're impossible of raising a child because they have no empathy. But you're forced to be in this co-parenting situation with the narcissist. I would limit contact as much as possible and use the apps that Angie Atkinson has on that YouTube video that she recorded last week because they're admissible in court. And apart from parenting or co-parenting a child with a narcissist, there is no reason that we need to stay in contact with these people. We need to ask ourselves on a daily basis, or more than one time a daily basis, is my sanity more important, or is the approval of my abuser more important? And the day we decide that our sanity is more important, that's the day we win. We win. Julie says, is it possible to have CPTSD after one experience with a babysitter? No, it's not possible to have CPTSD after one incident with a babysitter, but it is possible to have PTSD. So you'll need to look up, you guys, PTSD and CPTSD, even though they have similar letters in their names, they're very different. Complex trauma is trauma over a long period of time when there is an abuse of power. That's complex trauma. That's complex PTSD. PTSD can be from one incident. Yes, that's a great question. Grace says, I'm so afraid that I'm going to be just like my mother, that sometimes it is paralyzing. Me too. Me too. Yes, I've worried about that a lot in my life. There's a book called Mean Mothers by Peg Streep that was recommended here. Apparently there was a potato troll tonight, you guys. I don't know who the potato troll was because I have amazing moderators, but please forgive the potato troll and know that I care about you guys deeply, and I'm glad that we have moderators that kept everybody away. Let me see if I missed any here. Dominique says, the Duke of Zeal. Call the flying monkeys the Dukes of Zeal. Not flying monkeys. Are you guys familiar with the Wizard of Oz reference? The Dukes of Zeal? Monique is a big Wizard of Oz fan. Let's see. Let me see if I missed any questions. Last question here, guys. Last question. I ran over on time. I already lost half of you. Goodness, there were like 80 of you here, and now there's like 30. So, okay. Jack says, what do you do about a parent who is supportive, but they enable? The supportive parent has a blind spot, and their current refrain is to convince the siblings to acknowledge the narcissistic abuser mother's good qualities. I did tell him, the supportive, in air quotes, parent, that the capacity to love a narcish abuser mom was gone. There's no love. Okay, so the first thing thank you for asking this question, Jack. This is a great question. And since you're asking for my advice, I'm going to give you my solicited answer. A quote unquote supportive parent which is the other parent, and then there's a narcissistic parent, they're not really a supportive parent, they're an enabling parent if they are trying to tell you that you need to love the abuser. I want to say that again really, really, really clear for anyone who might be in the situation where you had a narcissistic parent and then you had another parent, okay? This is the narcissistic parent over here. They're the abusive one, okay? This is the other parent. They can be one of two things. They can be a supportive parent, a good enough parent, as Pete Walker from Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving would say, a good enough parent. So here's your narcissistic parent, okay? This is your good enough parent who did good enough and did the best they could to protect you and love you and affirm you and spend time with you and parent you and be the only source of love and comfort and support that you really received, right? That's the supportive, good enough parent. When the supportive, good enough parent turns a corner and becomes an enabling parent is when they decide to tell you that you need to just get over it and love the narcissistic parent. So your supportive parent that you're talking about, Jack, is not a supportive parent. They're an enabler. And I would say go no contact or low contact with as many of these toxic people as you can. You asked for my advice. So I know that you're in a situation where you don't believe you're in you have the ability to go low contact or no contact with with your parents, for some reason, there's still a reason that you need to keep in contact with them for whatever reason is your reasons, and you're the only ones to make that decision ever. Not me, not your therapist, not anyone, only you. But you asked for my advice, and my advice is to go low contact or no contact with all toxic people, including enablers. And the person you've labeled a supportive parent, not a supportive parent if they're telling you to love your abuser. They turned from a supportive parent and good enough parent into an enabler, and that's not a safe person. So that's my answer. Probably not popular. Probably going to get some hate mail. But I did the best I could. And all my love to Matt and Dawn and everyone else who made this possible, and no love whatsoever to the potato troll. So I love to see your comments in the video section after the chat is over. I love reading your YouTube comments when the comment section is actually available, because I know it's not right now. But if you showed up live and this video was helpful for you, can you give yourself and this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you already haven't? And oh, super quick. So this is the result of the poll I did last week for you guys. And this is just a thank you. I know that there are only like 20 of you guys left, but this is the result of the poll for the 131 of you that actually voted. Many of you contacted me expressing a need for daily support and resources. Which topic is most needed for your personal healing journey? 72% of you said that CPTSD and complex trauma is more necessary for your own personal healing journey than information and healing resources on childhood sexual abuse. And the messages I received indicated that the reason that you didn't need as much childhood sexual abuse resources as you did CPTSD resources is because we already have provided like almost 200 one-pages and over 200 hours of video, and that's the reason why. And so I appreciate you giving me your reason and telling me that. I'm grateful that the resources are helpful for you. And I want to ask one more thing, if I may, and that is, if you responded to that poll, if you could please just take a brief, like 3 seconds out of your time of your week this week, and if you could answer this poll. It's over on my Twitter profile, and it breaks it down into CPTSD, which by the way is still winning by a landslide for sure, or psychological abuse or narcissistic parents. I realize they're all closely related. It doesn't mean I'm never going to talk about the other two. It just means I need to know what direction to go in, and I'm going to be providing daily resources, and I want to make sure that I'm doing it properly and adding the most value that I possibly can to this community, because you guys are amazing, and I just want to just add as much value as possible and support you in any way I can, and the only way I can do that is if I know what you need. So thank you. And after the results of this poll come in next Monday morning, I will be sharing with you sort of, I guess, the results of that poll, and then there might be one final follow-up poll just to make sure that I'm going in the right direction. And then I've been planning behind the scenes for about 6 months now, maybe closer to like 8 months now, creating more of a sustainable support system, sustainable support system for you guys. And I'm really looking forward to that, because you guys are just amazing, and you're like the bravest, most courageous people I know, and I'm honored to know you. So thanks for watching all the way to the end. I appreciate it. For the few of you that are still here, and you inspire me. You inspire me to just keep on going, and I'm just grateful, super grateful. So thanks for all you guys do. I'm thinking of you guys, and I appreciate all of your voice messages and your DMs and your emails and just everything. So I I'm Athena Moberg, and I love creating resources for you guys to heal from trauma. So it mean a lot to me if you gave this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and go over to Twitter and take the anonymous poll so I know what to create for you. So thanks so much, you guys. Bye for now. See you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.